Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope we're all doing well. Right now, we're getting the podcast just underway. You know me as Forebears and a little bit of laggy screens. Hi, I'm really happy to be back. I'm joined by another animal friend of mine, Hornet. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Good to finally
Good.
join you.
Tell now for I know who you are. Why don't you tell sort of everyone else here a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in the podcast, just real quick, and let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, I've been involved with Pretenders for a bit now. I'm a support player on Lightbringers. And so recently with the kind of changes happening with the podcast, I've reached out and figured I'd start joining you.
Yeah, and of course I'm really thankful. Week 4 is sort of coming to a close. We're reaching the end of an era in the end of a season. We're also hitting the end of an era in that our host Puppy, I really hope he's watching right now. If you are, hey, what's up? But nonetheless, the show must go on, and so I'm very excited to have Hornet here with us. Hornet, do you play for a team?
Yeah, I play for Lightbringers. I'm
Okay,
a support player for them.
and you guys just had a victory too.
Yeah,
Nice.
unfortunately, I myself worked during that specific
Mhm.
game, so I wasn't able to make that game myself. But yeah, Lightbringers just recently um, won their game this week in a pretty hard 4-0.
Yeah, I did see that. We'll be talking about that as well, and that was over breakthrough. I'm seeing right here. Um, but let's talk about results just in a second. How was your weekend?
It was fun. I played a bunch. I got to work, got to hang out.
Okay. Well, we have a
So
lot of fun stuff here ready for
yeah.
you guys, talking about possible playoff contentions, talking about who we think sort of our predictions are going into the playoffs. It is confirmed it's top 2 and not top 3 of each division. So let's get into the mix. The Week 4 overview is Sevensons going 1-3 versus Action News Team Alpine Wolves 4-0 against Toxic Storm. Mercury Cougars with a similar fate over against Skyhounds. Breakthrough 0-4 toward Lightbringers. Nova. There's a lot of 4-0s here over Mild
Yeah,
Esports
like
and
yeah,
and
like
oh, go ahead.
a lot of hard fought games. A lot of hard fought games.
Of
Like a lot of
course, yeah. I had the privilege of checking out a couple of them, as well as actually casting one. So that was really fun. That was Seven Sins over Action News Team, or forgive me, Action News Team over Seven Sins. And the last one, Night Ops versus Suya, is actually scheduled for this Monday. So of course, definitely be sure to check that out, as well as all of the Week 5 games. Talk to me a little bit about these matchups. Of course, how did Lightbringers prepare over against Breakthrough?
like I mean we definitely this season's been a lot of just kind of introspection and kind of
Hmm.
working a lot from kind of within, trying a lot of players focusing very heavily on individual improvement,
Right.
a lot of focus on a kind of structuring, learning to structure our plays and our comms, and
Hmm.
there's been a lot of success in that.
Good.
Definitely um definitely with Djibouti stepping up as a major like force and a major coach
Right.
in how we play, and like stepping behind that.
Yeah. Lightbringers also had another DPS pickup in Fishling. Talk to me about him.
Fishling is amazing. I had the pleasure of playing in a handful of scrims during his tryouts,
Hmm.
and crazy good player, really good comms. Like, couldn't be happier to have him on a team. Like,
No, now beforehand, your shot caller was, to my knowledge, Coxbox. Is that right?
um, our our shot caller depended a lot on the specific comp we were running
Hmm.
and the specific group we were running. Coxbox did a lot of work with shot calling.
Hmm.
Adam X, up until he left,
Right.
was a major voice on our comms.
Hmm.
Um, and with their absence, we've seen definitely a lot of step up, both from Coxbox in his shot calling to even the our main support players, Figs and Cypher, have
Yeah.
also stepped up a lot of their game.
Really monstrous supports in their own right. Speaking of roster changes, other roster changes include Juice going over to Mild Esports, Speak about going away from Night Ops, and Ant getting a new coach over in Straight Rippin'. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this because there's a lot of DPS transitions going on. I wanted to ask you personally, just within your experience within your team, how much does Lightbringers rely on their DPS? Because I personally feel that, with the loss of Adam X, there was a really big sort of Adam X shaped hole in Lightbringer's heart, and they really were trying to fill that with a DPS that could consistently perform at a pretty high level. Am I right in assuming that, or?
Yeah, like it's definitely like what Adam brought to Lightbringers was it was a lot. It wasn't just his DPS play. It was also the fact that he was arguably one of the best flex players on our team. He was one of the best shot callers on our team. He was really good at going back through a lot of our plays and discussing a lot of stuff like that. And so like I'm definitely excited for like him being in like a new situation where
Good, good.
where like he feels more excited and he feels a lot more at home, and I'm definitely a little bit a little bit more nervous about Night Ops as a
Yeah.
team now. Like they've got a hell of a force on their team now to deal with. And so with that, like definitely like Fish has definitely been it's good to have like another high level DPS on our team. It's definitely good to have a lot of our players within our teams thoroughly step up their game.
Of course,
With,
and
our
and
kind
and
of our
that's how
shot
you
calling.
manage team synergy. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Of course, over on the MC Skyhounds matchup, that was yesterday. I unfortunately wasn't able to be there. I was DJing a wedding. I was being Lucio IRL, but I'm very very proud of my team. You can catch the perspective over on twitch.tv/slash Wombo TV. There's your shout out, bud. We're actually gonna be talking to Wombo a little later too about how that matchup went on. But I really can't like understate the value of shot calling enough. Our new main tank pickup CJ has done wonders for our comms, and although you'll see. Although if you were to go back through that Mercury Cougar Skyhounds VOD, you're going to be seeing a lot of goats and a lot of like tank led compositions. What I think that that's what we brought to the team is very much consistency. And so, but let's sort of break away. I didn't mean to knock my mic. Let's sort of break away from week 4. Let's talk a little bit about week 5. We got Skyhounds versus Alpine Wolves, Lightbringers versus Toxic Storm, Mercury Cougars versus Breakthrough, Nova versus Seven Sins, Single Woman in Your Area versus Action News Team, and Night Ops versus Mild Esports. Where are you leaning on these matchups? Tell me your first impression on these things.
It's definitely like I think we're getting to a point, especially with these major meta changes that we're getting,
Right.
to where the scores of teams so far doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of standing on what the results are likely to be for an upcoming week. Because now with Ash finally entering the fray, with a lot of these major meta changes that are about to happen,
Right.
it's like we don't necessarily know a lot of what to expect. So it's one of those things where like any predictions I could make about what teams could at best be based off of like the existing records of those teams, which has no meaning when we're dealing with the new meta right now. Because when like
you really don't know. It hasn't like settled down yet. It's kind of interesting how Ash has also brought a lot of like a little bit of like Wrecking Ball also into play, at least in ranked, because there was always this idea of like how do I even say this? Also comboing Grav with Dynamite to like build up that really, really fast ult charge, 10% for every person hit is huge because you can get like 60 ult charge if you get a 6-man Grav and you just hit Dynamite and then there's the damage over time effect. And then a lot of people are also comboing people like Wrecking Ball, people like Doomfist with this like really big like AoE cleave damage like with his shields and so on and so forth. It's very, very hard to, in my opinion, to really kind of figure out where the where the pretenders meta is right now. But it's always been really fun nonetheless.
And I think one observation, and like, I think this is something that I think would be interesting to discuss later, cause with when we get our guest in, is this whole idea of what Ash changes about the game is very different from what Wrecking Ball changes about the game. Because Wrecking Ball in his movement and style and kind of role on a team is very different from any other player that had been introduced before. Whereas Ash is coming in as, among other things, largely a kind of shorter range Widowmaker / longer range McCree hybrid with like different types of mobility. And so as a result, the kind of skills and role on a team that you would have transfers a lot more cleanly. Like, whereas if you're all these really good Widows and McCrees that we have on a lot of the teams in this league, especially because how many teams have like high level Widow players as our key players, like shout out to Dork.
Yeah. Like, shout out to Wombo.
Shout out to Wombo. Like I've played with Wombo before too. I know how nuts he gets. Like,
we'll be talking with a Widow player, a sad Widow main to be precise, a little later. But for the time being, we actually have the privilege of having Ving, or Italian Meatball. He's a top 500 player on our stream. You might have seen him in Overwatch Pretenders, just around. Let's grab him in here. Uno momento. Ving, come on in. Where's he at? The stream is looking at the splash screen. All right. Well, while we're waiting for him, and while the stream's just kind of hanging out, I have to ask: has Lightbringers been experimenting with Ashe with these sort of like double sniper comps? And a follow-up question: why not Hanzo? Because I feel like every single time you assess Ashe, you have to always ask yourself, why not Hanzo?
Yeah, and I think that's like definitely a major thing. I think we've been experimenting a lot with different DPS compositions, but what it really does come down to with a lot of things, especially at the Pretenders level, is what people are already comfortable on. Right. And I think that's where Ash's role in the Pretenders meta is somewhat unique, because her skill set does translate very much from existing heroes in the game.
Alrighty, well, we do have our first guest for the morning. Ving, thanks for making yourself available.
Yes, hello. I am a top 500 Doom and Tor player. I play a lot of Doomfist and Torbjorn. I have multiple accounts, and hi.
Cool. Well, you know, a little bit about Ving here. I've been trying to get Ving on the podcast for quite a long time now, and every single time it's always been like this really crazy, like, oh, we barely missed each other every single week. So I'm so happy to finally have you on the podcast. And I just wanted to ask real quick, you know, just how long have you been just top 500 for? What's your experience within games? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been top 500 since season 10. I started playing seriously in around season 6. And see, I used to be like a casual player in like season 5 and low, but other than that, when season 6 dropped, I started playing Doomfist, and I started climbing all the way from platinum to top 500.
Nice.
And I saw values in other characters like Torbjorn. I saw branded.
Of course.
I got a top 500 Torb account as well. It's called Anon2, AN0N2.
So if you ever see Anon 2 over in top 500 looking at you, liking, then you know who you're coming up against. Can I ask real quick? Ash has finally hit the competitive meta, and right now a lot of pretenders is kind of shaken up with how very much to deal with her, both playing against her as well as playing with her. Could you tell me a little bit about how you see Ash over in the top 500 scene? Just how people have learned to counter her, and just what the higher ranked meta has in store for us.
Well, you see, first off, one sec. She's a very powerful character, just that you have to give her more respect on Widowmaker because she can advance more than Widowmaker, and she has more potential than Widowmaker.
Tell me about that.
She has more. You see, if Pocket of Mercy, she can insta-kill squishies like nothing. And another thing will just be like, you need to give her some respect. But the only way to counter her, well, if you're a Doomfist or just a player, you need to jump on her because of her lack of mobility. If she has no ability, like her bush gun is down.
Right.
Jump on her, kill her, and secure the battle. That's all. And that'll be the best way to counter her.
A big part of the Nova of the Nova game was actually having a Zen, a Widowmaker, and an Ashe sort of all on their defense over on, say, like Hollywood Point 2. And what they did was that they positioned themselves in such a way, in the sense that Mild could only choose to dive one of those targets at a time. And I thought that was such like a big brain 200 IQ play. Like, here you are setting up Crossfire from around 4 different angles, and then there is these like tanks sort of swinging in your face. How is Ashe played over in top 500, over in that really higher ranked meta? Do you see something similar, or do you see something completely different?
Oh boy, against dive, it's really mixed. It depends on the Ashe, because if it's like a Ashe can aim and an Ashe that knows which position, it will destroy dive. And Ashe, the brush gun, is actually really strong against dive. It can just stop the dive, the Winston altogether almost, and
right.
It'll just be the Diva, and you can just kill the Diva. So, like Brigitte Ashe is just really powerful against dive. That's one thing.
Okay. Do you think a lot of people are using that bush gun as more of a Lucio boop or more of a Widow grapple? Because I find that people are very much in two different camps on how to use her mobility. Should it be offensively or defensively? Or, I mean, is it much like most things, like a balance?
From what I see, just mostly people are using it to advance, and people are basically just, like, for example, when they're making a flashy clip, you always see the Ashe jump on the high ground with a brush gun. They're mostly using it to just gain high ground advantage and gain more sight advantage. It's just like a Widow grapple, basically, almost.
Right. Okay.
But a lot more powerful.
I wanted to ask a little bit about about weirder compositions, especially in reactions to the new buffs and nerfs that have recently come out. With the Roadhog and the Reaper and like the Soldier, like what's the word? Like spread tightening just a little bit. With all those changes going live, have you been seeing a lot more Hog, a lot more Wrecking Ball in ranked? What's the status of Brig? Just tell me a little bit about it.
I've seen, thankfully, a lot less Brig and a little bit more Hog, but that's really about it. And Hog is actually a great counter to like certain characters such as Doomfist, Brigitte, and it all depends on how you play the character, but Hog can counter, dive, and a lot of other stuff depending on how you play. So Hog is really powerful right now, and so is Lucio.
And so is Lucio. Why is Lucio powerful? Because I feel like he definitely took a back seat. I remember during Moth meta, and then there was like this Ana Zen meta a little bit after. Why do you think Lucio's back in the limelight?
He's against the Goats comp, which is kind of sort of like meta right now, like Goats and heavy tankiness. Lucio can allow to disrupt it, such as Doomfist. He can disrupt it with boops and healing and speed, and basically just flow to battle more than Goats.
Right.
Like his boop. Like if a Reinhardt's charging in, he can really just kill the Reinhardt, just boop him out of the way. And if an enemy's advancing, he can just speed in or speed out. It's really powerful what Lucio can do against Goats and disrupting it.
Fair enough. I had one last question, and that was for the Brig shield bash not going through shields, or at least that rework still sort of in progress, but it is out on the PTR. Do you think that with this whole stun shatter almost meta that Goats tries to run a lot of the time, just due to their really really big rolling ult economy, do you think that still has a place over in the meta right now? Like, do you think Goats is still going to be meta? I know a lot of people are like, you buffed her healing, it's always going to be meta if that's the way you go about doing things. But where do you stand on this?
Not really. Just the standard goats come to 3-3 Brigitte, Lucio, Moria, and to that 3 tanks. It's not going to be exactly always set. The meta, because of the nerf Brigitte, the shield bash, there's going to be a lot more variety. Like, they can have a Doomfist, a Junkrat to boop up the Reiner, or there's many things they can do now. Because of standard, the easiest one was Brigitte shield bash. But because that's nerfed, there's going to be a lot more variety.
As someone who plays a lot of Torb, is your method of countering Goats like Molten Core?
All right, my method of countering goats is probably getting on the high ground and shooting from above and wait and farming Molten Core.
Yeah.
And because if you see like an isolated healer, I like to get in close my overload and just shoot it down with shotgun.
Fair enough. Well, I don't have any other, personal questions besides, like, tell me a little bit about how you got in Overwatch Pretenders. What do you like doing around here? Well, I mean, I don't know. Let's chat.
I actually have a question that I'm curious about. Because we're talking a lot more about how the brig changes may result in slightly more like alternatives to Goats with her role as the kind of CC or the stunner in the game changing, and then plus we already have started seeing more and more variations of Goats with what had originally been Moira getting changed with Ana Goats and Zen Goats being run in different situations depending on the map, depending on the enemy comp, depending on what's anticipated, and then on top of that seeing variations of Goats involving different DPS. In this kind of like, I'm assuming everyone here has kind of the same kind of antipathy toward Goats that most people in the Overwatch community have, where it's just kind of the frustration of its universality, whatever the word is. Would a Goats meta be slightly more interesting, or a largely Goats meta be slightly more interesting if there was more variety within the specifics of how those comps are run, and so not all Goats versus Goats games are necessarily mirror matches? Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. Because like I said, because of Brig got nerfed, there's gonna be a lot more variety in how you're gonna execute commands. Well, not commands, but execute like stuns and combos. Because now that Shield Bat's nerfed, they're gonna need something like a Lucio boop or something else just to get the shatter in. And it's gonna be a lot more variety. Like once you get the Reinhardt knocked up or like booped away, you can get a fat anti with Ana, and basically just clean up the game there. Like a big anti against Goats, that's the Devastator, and that can just instantly kill Goats.
Right. Okay.
Bionade's the best ability in the game right now. No joke.
Do you think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I can confirm. Anti-nade's one of the best abilities in the game, given how many games and maps we've literally won from Cypher pulling out a money nade out of nowhere.
That's definitely something I need to work on. That's for sure. I'm gonna be grinding on in the meantime for MC. I did want to ask, do you think Goats meta is here to stay with these brig changes, and do you think that if Shield Bash cannot go through, Rein Shield now, do you think that Doomfist is going to be teched in to like Rocket Punch Shield Bash, like have that as a possible have a possible stunner? Like, where do you see the future of the meta going right now?
I'll see Goats as being like more of a. Well, you see Goats, it'll still be around, except that it'll be more of the things that you can use, more better things. Goats not be the meta now. Goats will be overseen, and probably the thing that'll be the best thing is just you gotta experiment. You gotta find out what will stun the Reinhardt the best, and Doomfist will be actually a good candidate for stunning the Reinhardt and playing against Goats comp, or trying to set up combos and making combos happen.
Because I'm still really really excited to see to see Doomfist being run in like a more like a non-flanky way, like a bit more like to put more shield pressure on the team by just like canceling it entirely with his punch, like, because that's something I definitely want to see. How did you get involved in Overwatch Pretenders?
I was looking for a place to play pugs, and I found the server, so I just pressed click on the server and say, "Hey, I like the server. I want to play pugs."
Sounds
That's basically
good.
it.
Do pug teams ever get tilted because they're like, oh well, the enemy team has a top 500?
No, I try not. You see, in like top 500 games, not on pug games, I try not to play Doomfist. I try to flex and actually try to have fun, because Doomfist, after a while, like you're just stomping noobs. It's just not fun at all. Like, no joke. If you just play Doomfist all the time, you're just gonna dominate. It's no fun. And if they counter you, it takes like 5 of them to counter you, and it's no fun even after that, because you're just getting stomped.
So, I mean, hey, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, in any case, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about the meta. I guess one last question, sort of a throwback to the previous podcast where we talked a lot about D.Va and if she was deserving of a buff or a nerf. Where do you lie on that, especially considering her pick rate, especially considering her just her presence on a battlefield and her ability to do a little bit of everything? How would you tell me about her?
There's a difference between a good and a bad D.Va, and the D.Va, I think, is actually in a good spot right now. She's not either nerf or buff. She's actually perfect right now, because it takes the same amount of skill as it does the reward, because a good D.Va knows that you need to eat the grav, keep position right next to dive properly, and there's just so many things. It's just like you just got to do all these things correctly.
Of course.
There's differences between good and bad D.Vas. That's the main thing. But the main thing that D.Va can do right now, probably just soak up damage, and probably just make big plays such as Zarya eat grab, and yeah.
Is it do D.Vas at that level? Are they able to consistently eat grabs? Like, have a read on the Zarya that much?
If a Zarya is going heads first with the Reinhardt, and it's just that it's like 2 of them and they're all staying back, that's a fair sign that
fair enough.
Grab.
Yeah.
And D.Vas 9 out of 10 times, if they're doing that, they'll eat the grab.
Fair enough. Well,
the only times when they don't eat the grab is when the game glitches and it somehow goes through the matrix.
Fair enough. Well, I have no other questions. Hornet, got anything for him?
No. Like, that's the only thing I was really curious to hear his thoughts on.
All right. Well, Ving, thank you so much. Stay with us for just a little bit. Right now, we're rolling the red carpet out for you. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything like that?
No, nothing at all. Just hi.
Just hi.
Oh yeah.
What's up?
Go Florida Mayhem. Go Florida Mayhem. Season 2.
All right. Go Florida Mayhem Season 2. Of course. Thanks so much for being here. And yeah, take care. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend.
All right. See ya.
All right. And once again, that was Ving, or Italian Meatball, over on Overwatch Pretender server. Our next guest is actually a very, very, very sad Widowmain. Come on in. And right now we are still just staring at the splash screen.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, sorry, give me 1 second. But in the meanwhile, why don't you introduce yourself, what team you play for? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. Hey, I'm Sad Widowman. I play DPS for Breakthrough. And yeah.
Cool. How's well, congratulations on getting through another week of the season. Talk to me about your most recent game.
Our most recent game was, obviously pretty rough. We got 4-0'd. From the start, it's been pretty difficult. We've had a lot of coaching issues from the start. We've had all of our coaches have had different like scheduling conflicts and other responsibilities, which made it really hard for them to really be around for us all the time. So it's been pretty hard, but we're working on it.
Right, that's definitely fair. Breakthrough has a lot of from what I know, very very passionate individuals, but there's been a bit of a dissonance, just with the direction that a lot of people want the team to take. Could you tell me a little bit about if you've been feeling that pressure, and like
Yeah,
sort of like
definitely.
what the team vibe is like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the team overall is very positive despite the
Hmm.
issues we faced. Everyone's really close and it's a really good group of people.
Hmm.
I just think without the guidance, and the proper guidance as to what comps we should be running, what
Hmm.
sort of things everybody needs to be working on like an individual level, and also on a team level.
Right.
Yeah, it's been difficult.
Okay. And you recently got a new coach in Nick, is that right?
Yes, we did recently get a new coach. We also recently lost our coach Nick. I don't know if
Oh,
that's been publicized, but that's the case.
I
So
see.
for the time being, and I think for the rest of the season, Chrono Wolf, who was our assistant coach,
Hmm.
is our head coach.
Okay, well, it's still good that you're able to still have someone to like review VODs and obviously talk a little bit about strats with. Talk to me about your most recent game against, and it was Lightbringers.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah, and I'm not gonna go into the nitty gritty of like this is why things happened the way it was, but I still saw some really really solid DPS play, some really solid tank play, and there were these short and there were these sort of like these like shining moments. Do you ever feel that that you were able to exploit any one of Lightbringer's weaknesses? Because let me tell you, like Rialto was actually a push I was surprisingly impressed with. Talk to me about that.
So I think you're absolutely right about the shining moments thing. I think that's sort of
Hmm.
been indicative of how our team has performed throughout most of the season.
Hmm.
We always have our moments, and I think like when the comms are right and when the comps are right, things go well for us.
Right.
It's just a lot of the times, the communication isn't in the right place, and either we end up over investing in a fight or under investing in a fight.
Hmm.
And if we over invest, then we don't have the resources to win the next fight. And if we under invest, then you obviously lose the fight. And maybe you have enough alts to win the next fight,
Hmm.
but then you don't have it that fight, and then you never know how the rest of the match will go.
Right.
I don't think there's any specific weaknesses on the Lightbringers team. There was nobody that seemed like exploitable or anything like that.
Of course.
Um,
Sorry, I feel like that was the wrong way to frame that
no,
question, but it
no,
was
it's fine.
more like it was more like in terms of like the in terms of the strategy, like was there a particular person that was giving you a lot of trouble? Was there not? Did the Lightbringers new pick up Fishling kind of throw you for a loop?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I think overall the team is very strong, and they probably just had a better coordination than we did.
Hmm.
I think their alt management was really what helped them win a lot of the maps.
Right.
In situations where maybe we needed to have a defensive alt for a grab combo or something like that,
Hmm.
and we didn't have it, and they're really nailing just a lot of the combos, and I think that was just like really really helpful for them, and yeah, just definitely did really good work on us.
Okay. Good. Well, tell me a little bit about how you got involved in Overwatch Pretenders, just how you got involved with Breakthrough. Like, I want to know the play by play. Hit me with it.
So I'm roommates with two other members of the Overwatch Pretenders server, Nathan and Solitude of the Alpine Wolves.
Bring him in right now. Bring him in. I'm ready.
I would. They're probably watching the podcast in their rooms.
All right. If
Um,
you can hear this, Nathan and Solitude, just open the door. You already know what this guy's room looks like. He's not hiding anything. Like,
it's
do
true.
it. I want it
Come on in,
right
boys.
now.
Let's go. And so Nathan actually got me involved. He introduced me to the podcast. I'm not sure how he got involved with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, he got me involved, and luckily, we all got on teams, which is really awesome.
That's
And
that's
yeah,
absolutely wild. I was able to see Solitude's Diva Bombs, which we'll be able to
podcast.
check out just a little bit in the highlight section. So be sure to stay around for that.
For sure.
How did you guys meet? Just out of curiosity. I know this isn't technically Overwatch Pretender stuff, but I'm just
Oh, for
curious
sure.
how
Yeah,
did you guys
yeah,
end
I'm
up
more than
meeting and
happy
be
to answer about that
roommates?
at all. We've actually known each other for a very long time. We've
Cool.
been super old friends. Me and Nathan have been friends since we were maybe like 3 years old, like
Yeah.
childhood friends. And Solitude and I have also been friends for quite a long time. Not quite as long, but also since childhood, maybe like around. We've known each other since we're maybe 12 or 13, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly just through, we're all from like the Jewish Orthodox community.
Cool.
So we've known each other through that, like either through schools or through synagogues, stuff like that.
Sure.
None of us are, part of the community anymore, but
I see.
that's how we all know each other.
Wow.
Yeah, and Overwatch Pretenders has just been, I think the appeal, I'm sure a lot of you have heard either through Jane's, talks about it, or other popular streamers. Just the fact that a lot of people are frustrated with ranked and how it's structured, and sort of maybe partially the meta right now, but more just the structure of ranked and how it feels, and the solo queue environment. And I think pugs for a lot of people, and like sort of Discord-based leagues like this one, just really provides a better competitive experience than ranked does.
It's really well said. I'm actually gonna field this one over to Hornet. In the Lightbringers breakthrough match, and have you got a chance to review the VOD?
I haven't had a chance to review the VOD, unfortunately. I wasn't able to make the match myself due to work.
Right.
I've like heard like aspects and discussions of it.
That's
and,
fair.
Like, heard quite a bit about it though.
Well, I'm going to interview both of you then. When I say, how did both of your respective teams prepare for the matchup? And Sad Widow, I'll field it to you first.
So we didn't actually prep that much, to be honest. Just because it's just been a little bit crazy with all of our coaching issues. Obviously we had Media initially, and then we had a different assistant coach for about 1 hour, and then backed out.
Fair enough.
But we actually tried some new comps, and didn't always work out so well. Like we tried I don't know if everyone saw this, but we tried a Sim Bastion comp for about 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, and then you got Ursa pulled into the water. I saw that.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, but we're just trying some new things. I guess for the future we'll probably keep that to scrims, but we tried some stuff out, and our defense on Rialto, you actually saw, I didn't get to answer this before, but you were asking about our Rialto, and surprisingly our Rialto just abilities throughout the season has actually been pretty good. Like against
definitely.
Yeah, like so Alpine Wolves, I think the only map they've lost so far has been to us on Rialto.
Really?
Yeah, which is just kind of funny.
And right now you are the only team who can say you've taken a map off Alpine Wolves.
Yeah, which is just kind of it's kind of wonky, but it just worked out that way. And our defense against Lightbringers on Rialto was actually very solid. Just they ended up pulling out an even better one, which was very surprising. Kudos to them for that.
Of course,
Yeah. So we actually had this very funny clip of us sneaking around the back at the very beginning of the defense.
Yeah.
To hold right at the entrance, which is very funny.
Yes, the Nova Mild Esports strat. We saw, a lot of similar things over in their map as well. I wanted to ask, who do you think right now are the winners of Group 1 for you? Like we're coming up on week 5, we have an entire week and then one game of Night Ops Suia, rounding out week 4. Who do you think is going to end up going to the playoffs? And these are top 2.
Yeah. Group 1's our group, right?
Yep.
Or my group.
Actually, all of our group is Group 1. All 3 of ours.
Awesome. Oh, nice. I think I definitely see Alpine Wolves, headed to the playoffs. Just want to pull up the schedule here so I can look at all the standings and everything.
And then Hornet, I'm gonna ask you the same question about Group 2. So while you're getting that prepared, but I already have my own opinions about it.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell me first?
So definitely just Alpine Wolves. They're a super dominant team.
Of course.
They have excellent coaching. Felicity and Daybz, and I'm not sure about their other coaches, but definitely Felicity and Daybz are just fantastic. I get to hear a lot about their coaching abilities just through Nathan and Solitude.
Right.
And both just the fact that they're GM players already, is obviously very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I know DayBZ is extremely supportive and positive, and keeps the team sort of a level-headed,
Yeah.
which I think is super super important. Sort of like having multiple approaches to getting the team towards those victories. Felicity maybe with the more direct guidance, and then DayBZ more with the morale, I guess, but also obviously with lots of good pointers for the team as well. And for the rest of the teams, I mean, just in terms of map differential, Lightbringers is obviously looking very strong. And yeah, I think the standings really tell it all. I mean, definitely, I think Alpine Wolves and Lightbringers could definitely be the teams headed to the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Group 2 is a bit of a bit of a trickier question, right? There's no doubt about it, because a lot of them are really, really tight just in their map differentials. Who do you see going to Group 2, Hornet?
I mean, Night Ops has a lot of like players that I personally know really well that I think are crazy good. Like,
yeah.
Especially with Adam on them now.
Yeah, he just joined.
I'm definitely like anticipating like a lot. I'm definitely anticipating a lot from them here in the next week or two.
Right. And it just is so much that like between Nova, Action News Team, and Night Ops, all of them are in like such like a tight window of a +4 map differential, which means this next week, if there was an upset that nobody was expecting, that's gonna be huge and just really shaking up the standings. I'm personally hoping like for Group 1, I'm a Mercury Cougars fan by heart. I hope we 4-0 our next team. And Lightbringers, well, I hope you let us go to the playoffs. We'll see about that. And we'll definitely be throwing some trash talk around, that's for sure. To say the least.
Yeah, like I think I'm definitely really confident with where I'm definitely really confident with where Lightbringers is now. I think we're in a really good place to just keep fighting teams and just keep improving. But as far as Group 2 goes, if there's a major major change, like I'm calling it. I'm calling Night Ops being the.
You're calling Night Ops winning it all?
I'm gonna call maybe not necessarily winning it all, but like I'm calling like if there ends up being like a major upset, like I'm this is less though like me like betting like.
I mean, they just lost to DPS.
Going all in on them, but like if I had to pick a team that I think is gonna be pulling like unexpected tricks out and like suddenly coming out of nowhere to like take a firmer lead, Night Ops would be the one that I'm like.
Yeah, the one that the one that you're pining for, and that's okay. Unfortunately, I do believe that Breakthrough and Skyhounds with this last matchup don't have a chance to go into the playoffs, even if everybody else 4-0'd and they 4-0'd their team, or 0-4'd and then they 4-0'd their team. It looks like they would end up over at 3rd and 4th places respectively. How are you preparing for the next season?
I think it's really hard to say. I mean, I think this season's obviously been a difficult one for us, and it's really, I don't really know exactly what's going to happen for the team, for the next season. As far as coaching, I think it really depends a lot on the coaching. I think a lot of players are obviously frustrated, with how the season's gone. Not really with each other, because everyone on the team, everyone on the team is great and they're positive, and they're all tight with each other. Just it's been a difficult season for everyone.
Of course,
sort of feel like we didn't have just sort of like a path, I guess, and guidance, especially for a lot of people that are, we're all obviously working on stuff. And without sort of, I think obviously this league is to get better, and without the guidance to tell us, what mistakes we're making in games, why we're losing certain team fights, and just stuff like that. It's been pretty difficult, but
Yeah.
I mean, assuming the team stays together, which I think we probably will.
Yeah, you guys definitely seem very like in love with each other. Like there's a lot of team unity.
Exactly. Like despite how the season's gone, we all play a lot together and we have a lot of fun, which is great. So I don't know if maybe the Pretenders League is short on coaches, or maybe there's not many people that are available. There's obviously a lot of people that are higher level. They're also trying to climb, and they're also trying to whether if they're in Masters, they're trying to work their way to Grandmasters, and if they're in Grandmasters, they're trying to work their way up. And it's not everyone has a lot of time to spend, to help people that aren't as high rank,
Right.
Work their way up. But regardless of what happens, I'm definitely looking forward to season 2, and I'd like to see what it has in store for us.
Very well said. And while I'm out of focus, thank you so much for being here. Right now, the red carpet is yours. Tell everyone, what you got going on in your life. If you have anything to plug, now's the time to do it. And be sure to check out Breakthrough versus Mercury Cougars Week 5.
I don't got much to plug. I don't got much going on. I work full time, and I play a whole lot of Overwatch. I've got Solitude getting featured on the podcast right now.
Solitude wearing the Soul Dynasty shirt. Can he hear me?
No, he can't hear you.
Just give him the headset. Yeah,
Here,
mwah.
Solitude,
There you go.
What's going on?
Solitude, how's it going? Congrats on first of all, congrats on making yourself available for the podcast. Is that a Jehong jersey?
It actually says Solitude.
It actually just says Solitude. Look at that, newest member of the Soul Dynasty right there.
There we go.
Congrats on a victory. This past week, I'm a big fan of your Diva Bombs. How are you?
I love you, Forebears. Thank you. We actually had a great game. We were missing our DPS player, as I told you before the podcast.
Right.
And we still had to
My
go
voice
on.
just cracked.
You all right?
Oh no, my voice just cracked. Please don't pay attention to it. Nobody clip this.
We had to carry on without a DPS player, and everyone stepped up to the plate. Mage played really well. We had a great game.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. And right now, Hornet's like, please clip it, please. Well, if anything, I've spoken I've spoken a lot to people from Alpine Wolf, so I have a pretty good idea of what your team culture is like. I just wanted to say, hey, I just wanted to wish you guys good luck week 5. You guys are 100% making it into the playoffs. So can I ask a little bit about the group 2 teams that you're talking about, and sort of different plans you have for them?
We do feel like the group 2 has a bunch of really strong teams. I think is it still up in the air as to who we're going to face?
Correct. Yeah.
I think we will be the number 1 seed and we'll face the number 2. I believe is how it works.
Yep, that's correct.
And I'm not sure who the top 2 teams are. I know Nova's up there. Is it Ant as well?
It's Nova and Ant, or it could be Night Ops. This week 5, it's all really close.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think we're prepared for anything that gets thrown at us. We have a lot of really good team synergies. We've been playing very well. It does seem like, just so far from how the games have gone, the Group 2 teams might be a little bit stronger. A lot of them have been together longer. But we're excited to come up against a challenge.
All right. Well, in any case, thank you again. I'm gonna really open the floor to both of you, and I hope you can also tell Sad Widowmain this. But if you guys have any plugs, just tell the crowd what you guys got going on in your life.
I'm just gonna say go follow David. I think it's Hold My David on Twitch, and just pocket Elodian forehead. I'm gonna give the floor back to Sad Widowmain.
All right. Hey, thank you and good luck.
Awesome guest feature with my man.
Awesome guest feature within a guest feature within the podcast. But in any case, thank you so much for being with us. If you have any plugs, now's the time to go about doing it.
No, not much. I mean, check out Mine and Solitude SoundCloud or something like that. I'll post it in the Twitch chat. That's about it. Yeah, we both make some chill beats and stuff like that in our free time.
Cool.
And yeah, that's about it.
You definitely have the vaporwave aesthetic going on, so
Thank you.
I definitely appreciate it. In any case, good luck and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much for having me. You too, man. Take care.
All right, and once again, that was Sad Widowmane as well as Solitude. That was a good feature, but we're not done yet.
That was a cool lighting room setup.
I was about to say
you're jealous
I'm like, what? I have a lamp right over here with just 3 bulbs. I feel like I could make them different colors, but the room isn't exactly suited for that. Our next guest is actually going to be, you know him as one of the best Doomfists in the league. I know him as Costanza. Costanza, come on in. Come on in. Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
We're doing really well. Right now I'm just getting the stream going. Hornet, quick, stall for me, please.
All right. So it's definitely good to have you. So real quick, for people who don't already know you, talk to us about what your role in team is.
Yeah, tell us a little about yourself, dude.
I'm a Doomfist one trick for I'm a projectile DPS for single women in your area. It's pretty awesome team. So
yeah, with an incredibly awesome name. You guys haven't had your week 5 matchup yet, have you?
No, we
or
haven't.
My bad, week 4 matchup. Forgive me.
Yeah, it's gotten postponed I think 3 times now.
Yeah,
which is whatever. It's cool. So
no, fair enough. I wanted to ask. You guys have had a pretty tenuous season, right? I think right now you guys are 2-2. Is that right?
No, we're 2-1.
Am I dumb? Yes.
Maybe.
I am dumb. Yeah, you guys are 2-1 right now, and you're coming up at around a pretty even map differential. I wanted to ask, just in your past games, how's the season been for you? Talk to me a little bit about sort of the history of single woman in your area from the beginning, right? Because you got picked up in the draft.
Yeah.
You know, all the way until now. Just give us the lowdown.
All right, cool. So I'll talk about the 3 matches. The first match, which is against Mild. That was a crazy game. It was streamed, I'm sure a lot of people got to watch it. Mild at that time was a totally different team than what they are now. It's kind of crazy. They had a Dondi who was honestly doing so much. The Guffinator was playing a lot. Yeah, so that was a crazy match. Then past that, we played Nova. Nova was really strong. They still had Leon, and they had a really good game plan. Yeah, specifically trying to stop me from doing anything.
Yeah,
which is cool. And then we recently just played. Who was it? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting names.
Let's see. Week 3, Group 2. You guys played Seven Sins.
Okay, thank you. No disrespect. It was a great game. We went up 2-0 early, and I think we just, they came back and they played really well, and we just kind of got complacent, and we just had to take it into map 5. So otherwise, it's been pretty good. It's obviously you want to 4-0 everyone that you play.
Not everyone can be Alpine Wolves, that's for sure.
I suppose. But anyways, so that's pretty much us so far. Looking forward to the next game. So.
I haven't had the privilege of really talking with your team that much. Just talk to me about how the team culture is. Are you? Yeah. Just I don't know. Just tell me a little bit about them.
Nah, there's honestly, I'm so glad to be on this team just because, pretty much everybody on this team is just so chill, down to earth, and actually really cool people. Sometimes it's really the draft is just kind of a lottery process for everybody that was in it. It could have ended up on a team with a ton of different people. As it turns out, there were a lot of people I liked. During the draft, I would have loved to have been on team on, but pretty much everybody that's on our team is like everybody who I got along with like day one from the get go. It was kind of, you know, it was like it was meant to be. It's pretty cool.
It was meant to be. Do you think that do you think your coaches focused a lot on team synergy when deciding on the draft, like asking during the draft, did they ask you, oh, what people do you best work with, and did they sort of aim to get those people later? Like, talk to how that conversation went.
So we, from my understanding, like Garden never really did that. Garden and Ben never, you know, like asked us directly, like, hey, do you like this guy or that guy? We just had like a really kind of rigorous tryout process that was like really, really well run, and I was really impressed with. You know, we scrimmed. I think your team was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Scrimmed, yeah. Lightbringers. We scrimmed. I think your team, and then one other team, and it was just kind of a, you know, putting us against established teams, throwing us in, subbing us out, and it was a really cool process. Really love that. So I think he just, you know, went with the players that he felt probably meshed together, but you know, we're kind of vocal and, you know, filled out each other's hero roles and all that kind of stuff. So
fair enough. Talk to me a little bit about being a new team. Has building team synergy been a struggle at all, or is it just like, no, we're all best friends from the get-go, we all know exactly how those communications go, that very, very long Horizon game that one time was just a fluke?
Yeah.
We don't talk about the Horizon game.
Oh my god, that was yeah.
We scrimmed against Suya, and it was, the final score was what, 8-6.
Yeah, it was 8-6.
It was a 45-minute game. It was stupid.
Yeah. It was like nobody could hold at all until like all of a sudden they were finally able to hold for a minute, and that was it. You know, it was kind of crazy. It was so nuts. Anyways, yeah. So team synergy is like, some of us really, like, I feel like able to work really well together from the get-go. You know, part of it's like communication, you know, just because some of us are like really vocal, like Pig Dog's very vocal. Honestly, everybody on our team's like really vocal. But
do you think like crowded comms is like a struggle you guys deal with if everyone's vocal then?
I mean, yeah, no. It can always be a problem just because, you know, you can have information overload, but I think we're all starting to kind of come into our own roles in the communication. You know what I'm saying? Not even necessarily like designated, but you know, like typically as a DPS player, it's hard to like talk while I'm playing the whole time. You know, like when like in the middle of a team fight, but between team fights, I'm like really vocal. So, you know, sometimes I'll like call that, you know, we should do this or run this strategy and do this rotation. Pig Dog will like call engagements, and then like Silver Sacks will help track ults along with like Haro and everybody. So, you know, we're kind of starting to naturally kind of slide into place with comms, but it's something that, you know, as you work together as a team, you just kind of get better and better with. So,
Silver Sacks is a great Lucio, by the way. He's
a great player
as a Lucio player, I see you like, you know, like Cloud's gotta respect Cloud, that's for sure. And speaking of which, I really like that. Overwatch that Overwatch hoodie you got wearing on. I want to see more.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I just got it recently.
Who you rooting for this coming season?
Atlanta Reign.
Like, Atlanta Reign. All right, fair enough. But, are you from Atlanta yourself?
Atlanta area.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Pretty much. And then just a Fran. Like I was gonna cheer for whatever team he went to.
No, dude.
Honestly,
for me it's Vancouver all the way. I'm from Seattle myself. Vancouver's very close to me. Plus, like Runaway. How can you not? Right?
Yeah, they're gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Honestly, like Runaway is just. I remember watching that final with Runaway and who was it? Kongdu.
Yeah. It was Kongdu.
Yeah, that was such a great match. So,
but
it's going to be so much fun.
But I do want to bring it back to Pretenders, of course. You guys have Night Ops. You guys are against Night Ops tomorrow. Tell me about how you're preparing for it. Are you guys messing around with Ashe? Are you messing around with maybe some weird strats? I know you don't want to leak your trade secrets, and that's okay.
No, it's fine. I'll tell you everything.
Tell me everything.
We're working on, you know, really crazy Torbjorn May strat.
Yeah.
It's like really crazy.
Yep. So,
that's coming up. You know, we're running with like 5 DPS compositions.
Yep.
Now.
I hear it's really meta. Yep.
It's really meta. It's really great at you know, breaking goats. Yeah. So, but really, yeah, we're like mostly right now. What we're kind of doing is like we're working more on ourselves. Then like, I mean, we have a game plan for them, but we're not so much focused on that right now. We're trying to make sure that we're working well as a team within our compositions that we're trying to run,
right?
And just trying to hone that down, because ultimately, I mean, you can prepare for what you think a team's going to play, what you think that they're going to run, but then they come up to the game and they have like this crazy cheese that you just never expected.
Yeah, and in the thick of it, it's so hard to break through that. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, whenever you appear against
Nova
stuff
in
like
particular was a team that had like supreme cheese. Like they had the like some of the like just most tilting cheese comps you could ever imagine. And
that's their game strat, right? That's how they're winning swords. They're just tilting the enemy team. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, we generally don't get that tilted as a team. I mean, of course you get upset when you're losing, but
of course.
That was like, yeah, some of those maps were kind of funny, looking back on it, just because we just had no clue what to do against some of those compositions. But you live and learn. So it was a good learning experience, a lot of those maps, honestly.
Fair enough. And how'd you get involved in Overwatch Pretenders? How'd you hear about it?
Reddit.
Fair enough.
Like everybody else. Pretty much that one post. I think it was during the summer sometime.
Yeah, I think that was posted by Cher. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just saw that and I was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'll just try it.
And one thing led to another, and you're on a podcast.
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, in any case, I hope you've had so much fun in Overwatch Pretenders. Is there anything else you want to say, just last minute?
And
like now's the time for
really.
Plugs, no?
I had no plugs, like, no, like, I'm not trying to stream, maybe one day, but that's not like a focus of me. So anyways, but yeah, just shouts out to my team, shouts out to all the teams we played to. It's been honestly, this whole league's just been really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, coming in, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. I wasn't sure what the vibes were going to be like with the people, but everybody's just been really cool. From Pugs, like to tryouts to like all the teams we played, it's been pretty cool. So it's been awesome.
In any case, be sure to check out Suia versus Night Ops tomorrow. That's Monday. Over at, is it ADST?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look again.
Over at 7 and or 8 EST. I don't have the info off the top of my head, but in any case, Stanza, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, coming on the stream. Keep dominating Pugs, being a Doomfist one trick, and I'm looking forward to seeing you play tomorrow.
All right, see you later. Happy
of course.
Festivus.
Hey, take care. Happy holidays. Oh, we're broken. And that does wrap up all the interviews, but we're not done with the podcast just yet because luckily we have a lot of really cool highlights just ahead of us just to check out. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Alrighty. And we're coming in, and this first highlight is over from Wombo. Those 20 seconds, he didn't have 150 ping. And the quality's terrible. I apologize for it, but he does get a good solid 3 headshots over on a Dorado defense. And today, it's actually going to be, in terms of highlights, it's going to be a little bit of everything leading up to now, because I have a good amount of highlights I didn't get to show last week, and I'm really, really excited to show these. But while I'm showing these, Hornet, tell me a little bit about what it's like having a lot of expectation on your shoulders, because I feel like a lot of people are looking over at Lightbringers and they're thinking to themselves, hey, they're totally gonna make playoffs. Like, has there ever been like these sort of has there been any like internal like struggle or tension within the team of, hey, this is what's going on?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely been a lot of ups and downs with stuff. I think a big part of the reason we were as intimidating as we were early in the season is because we had and we're trying out tanks like what is it, like Strike Mist and Gambit, who were really high level tanks who unfortunately weren't able to ultimately end up joining us. But then we also had but then we also had Djibouti as one of our major DPS players.
Right.
And so we had a large DPS shaped kind of
hole in your hearts after Adam X, after Djibouti, that sort of thing. I did want to bring attention to this DPS Ana. We do have Cat Dad over on 7 Sins with a lifesaver highlight. He gets in some pretty clutch sleeps, a nano just on that Genji who goes into Blade, and D30 is just able to, or my bad, not Blade, he's just able to dash in, and Defuse and D30 do what's best on Rialto, and then he shuts down a Reinhardt that's ulting. Nice. Yeah, can you see these highlights, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Wonderful.
That's the, I mean, that's the great thing though about Ana finally being back around after like suffering through such a long Mercy meta.
Right.
Is like we have all these Ana mains that have been back for these past few months, and they're able to do these clutch plays, these like huge saves, these huge multi kills, like things that you would never see from necessarily even a high level Mercy player. Like
it's definitely. Wait, did you say high level Mercy player?
Like what I mean though is like even if you had a high level Mercy player, you wouldn't necessarily see the like play of the game like level like money plays, where Mercy's so much more about.
I mean, I don't know. You weren't there season 1. She was able to res 5 people at the same time, and those were the good old days. I'm just kidding. No,
I mean,
that was
those were days.
Those were days, and we're gonna leave it at that.
Those were days that existed.
This next highlight comes from This next highlight comes from Achille over as Moira. We're over on Rialto attack over an overtime. There's a shatter, a grab, barrage, and a coalescence, looking to just clear out the rest of 7 Sins, and I think they go on to win this map because you just had to really get it to the corner. I don't know how much I subscribe to the whole dumping ults in a fight scenario, but I'm very much an ult rotation proponent.
I mean, especially at this level, you got to do what wins the game. Like if it ever comes between winning a fight by over ulting or losing a fight, then like the over ulting is usually going to be what.
I guess it depends on if you're in overtime or not. Like if it's last fight, go ahead and dump all these ults into it. Much unlike what we see here from Ramen-kun over on Rialto again, a really good shatter. You got that cleanup and follow up by both both Beal, and it like that's what I like to be like. Okay, like 2 ults and like we're good to go. Right, it's like a shatter, a coalescence. You're good to go. You don't need to worry about anything else. Let's see if we can trickle that Genji at the very end. This one was actually earlier in the season. I really like revisiting this one as well. This one's Rice over as Farah on Ilios well, and it's just a fantastic example of an EMP barrage and like a nice little trickle. You get all 6 people, and just that's the way to go about doing things when it comes to setting up these really, really big plays. And that's something I want to see a lot of. And part of me wants to say that Hack is an EMP is one of the only ults that does set up those big set plays aside from Grav. And I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of moments where people start using ults in really, really weird ways. And a big example of that was like, I know that there was a player who used Molten Core to kind of like zone off people from the point, and then he just kept pushing it, and it was just him on the payload, and he was able to get it, which I think is really cool. But in any case, I wanted to ask, how is Lightbringer's Farah play? Tell me a bit more about that.
I think it definitely we run a lot of we've run pharmacy on a handful of maps, and like it very often like ends up in our favor. I think right now like the the majority of the focus has been a lot on our tank play, because our DPS players have been, for the most part, largely self-sufficient.
Sorry, I was just laughing because there's a slept Nano Reinhardt, which is a diva bomb on top. Like, that guy's having a bad day.
Yeah, and like,
and that's over.
If you even check chat, like Dork's talking about how Farah is trash, which, you know, there's a lot of Lightbringer enemy team kill feeds that would disagree with Dork's statement on that.
Fair enough. By the way, this next highlight's over from Lazy or My Name's Leon or just Leon. He's one of the streamers. Getting a really solid diva bomb on top of sleeping Nano Ryan. Oh man, I love this clip. But nonetheless, the highlight train keeps on rolling. This next one is by Raiden as Ana. Well, let's see what Raiden's got to show. He's in the back over on Elysian Control Center, healing up people, and he thinks he hears Sombra and just gets it, and he gets the sleep, and is able to take him down. Look at that. That's some 900 IQ stuff right there.
I'm still seeing the diva bomb. There we go.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there might be a bit of a stream delay. I'll play it again just in case.
Yeah.
Oh, we do that sound barrier comes out for a bit more of an additional sustain. I don't know if that Sombra was going for that EMP.
But yeah, it's definitely like
a mistake. A mistake I make a lot as Ana is I always sleep someone and I kind of just like stare at them while yelling at my team to get over there, and that's something I'm looking to not do, because when you sleep in Ana, you know, you still have so many things to do in that fight. You have people to heal, you have people to damage, you have people to, you know, bionade and that sort of thing. So it's very, I feel like that clip is such a big example of knowing when to engage and knowing when to disengage within a fight, because I feel like Raiden here knew he could kill the Sombra, and so he's like, oh, you know, I'm just going to go for it. But if you ever do that for like a tank, like, don't do that on tanks. What are you doing? Ask for help. Enough.
I think that's a major mark, especially at the level we play at here in Pretenders. I think that's a major mark of what makes a player comfortable on their role versus uncomfortable on their role, is to understand how to follow up on a lot of those hard to hit abilities, where like a sleep dart's a hard to hit ability. If you land a sleep dart and you're not comfortable enough on Ana to like know how to respond when you hit a sleep dart, you'll stand, like, that's what you'll do, is you'll stand there like trying to get someone to come in, or maybe you'll just stand next to them trying to hope you get that combo off, rather than continuing to heal and earn value for your team. But then even at the same time, like, that's also a thing that you'll see with Reinhardt's, people who know how to appropriately or not appropriately follow up on a shatter. Like,
right, of course.
Run into another Reinhardt in ranked whose response to landing a 3 or 4 man shatter is to charge into it.
Hey, Ant, we're looking at you. I'm just kidding. Love you, Endo. But tell me about this main tank play where it looks like Seven Sins has gotten the point and Cat Dad's being a sneaky Winston and just immediately ulting and knocking people out to get the point.
Like,
thoughts?
That's just, I mean, that's intense like area control. Like, it's the type of stuff that like you need to like plan for and be ready for and like be ready to think about that. Control the area. Like any other main tank would prioritize, like, okay, right now we need to be all in on point.
Right. I think this was the toxic. I think this is the toxic storm scrim. I want to say. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, yeah, but like that's all I was gonna say is that's the type of thing though that you need to learn about, like controlling where you need to be, even if. And I think that's the sign of a really good main tank is knowing kind of the weird non-traditional places that you should be.
No,
so you can
totally.
get a lot of value.
Yeah,
and that's because and it's even then because you can even see his team here following up on a lot of what he does, and I forget. I don't even remember who it was that had originally said this, but there was a player or a streamer or a coach or someone who said something to the effect of one player doing something stupid is a mistake, 6 players doing something stupid is a strategy. Like
I like that. That's good. It might be a terrible strategy, but a strategy nonetheless.
Yeah, but that's the thing though is that like you. But that's the thing though is that like you a lot of the these like Ana plays and Winston plays that we're seeing in these like replays and highlights, a lot of the reason that these got as much value as they did is because they were following up on opportunities their team gave them.
Right.
And Nathan just confirmed that was a Jane quote, which makes sense. That
sounds like a Jane thing to say. I did want to show this on a clip from my show over on Suya. And fun fact, this was posted on the Overwatch Pretenders Twitter. Go follow that and send your highlights to that too. And I'm just very, very impressed with just the prediction and aim and the amount that this Pharmacy doesn't contest my ish. That just astounds me. Like I feel like playing out into a Pharmacy and just sort of like out in the open on high ground like that, like you're gonna need a lot of peel to make that work, and we do see that D.Va sort of peeling. You do see a lot of ultimates. Maybe that's why they're a bit more confident in their location. Plus, we do see that D.Va bombed his zone out that Pharmacy. I really like this clip too.
And so I think and I mean that definitely ties into what I was just saying, where like you definitely see so much of this is possible because they're following up on things that their team like. The reason the Ana is able to be as comfortable here as they are is because you can see other members of that team are contesting that Pharmacy,
right,
keeping that Pharmacy occupied. But then even on top of that, like they do have the peels for when the Pharmacy like turns around, and that's what makes a lot of this possible, and that's where a lot of this what we're seeing in a lot of these highlights, what we're seeing in a lot of these victories really ends up shining is the difference between the 1-star player making the money plays versus the 6 players who are just following
who
up
are just
on each
really,
other.
really consistent. I will say this is a 5-star player making a money play. This was Defuse from Action News Team versus Seven Sins, and he was able to. It was a very lost fight over from Seven Sins, but he was able to pull out clutch. I think he got 3 kills here after his entire team was dead, and he was able to just win the point after. It was absolutely. He's an absolute monster. The title speaks for itself. Everyone's like, "What's going on?" And I do believe they win this point, which is something I'm very, very impressed with. It's just excellent. I was lucky enough to cast this game and witness this live. And if you want, you can hear us go crazy. I'm just gonna crank it up a little bit.
Yeah, like that, and that's like
that's how all of my fights with
it's definitely these like massive plays and these like crazy things, and it's really interesting just with Overwatch being a game that just has so much of both
of that, right?
Yeah. So like there are a lot of these hero plays, but like in the long term though, like even these hero plays are only possible because they're following up on like space that was made for them or
right
supports that follow up on a lot of that. And that's where you see a lot of this.
And you're definitely right. Tell me a little bit about this clip in general. If this was Mercurius versus Toxic Storm, when Toxic Storm chose to spawn camp like two of the supports on Mercury Cougars, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" Like, do you think this is an example of 6 people following a strat, or is it kind of like, "All right, what's going on here?" Like, tell me your first impressions on this.
And this is on this Junkertown clip.
Yeah. So the cart's on point 1. And no one's pushing cart, and I think they just go and decide to devote ults to shut down the support line instead. This was a very weird game. I am the brig in this situation.
Yeah, and I think, but I mean, like all of that is possible, like because of the teamwork in it. Like spawn camping only really works, like early when it comes to at least spawn camping an entire team only works if everyone on the team is on the same page with it.
Right.
Like the reason spawn camping is such a risky move in things like ranked a lot of the time, unless you're like playing on a Smurf that's like 4 ranks below your
Sure, yeah.
main.
Mhm.
But like the reason spawn camping can be really dangerous in ranked is because it's such a punishable.
It's just respawn
high-risk
advantage, yeah. I mean, and that's what'll always make, assuming even teams, like the defense win out every single time.
Yeah, and
So
so
you have
that's
to
what I mean.
trickle
Though,
properly. That's like
even
the
if
biggest
even if everyone isn't necessarily pressing W and pushing to spawn,
Mhm.
everyone needs to commit to that in some way. There was a strat we've run during a couple games on Rialto
Mhm.
on Lightbringers, where we relied heavily on spawn camping. And again, a lot of the reason a lot of that was possible is because the entire team committed to it, because we had everyone do it, and because everyone did it, we were able to rely on enemy staggers.
Mhm.
But then as soon as but then if we ever tried to run strats similar to that in situations where like maybe we were trying out a new player and they didn't necessarily know at what points we all press W and suddenly like move our aggressiveness up to 900%,
Right.
that's when we start seeing strategies like that struggle, because so much of those aggressive play styles relies on full commitment.
Right. I think that this next clip is actually a pretty big example of that. This was a really nice EMP from David over on Alpine Wolves, and it was just complete. It was just a really, how do I even say this? I just think MC, you know, maybe they were expecting it, but maybe they didn't give it as much respect as they needed, because they saw like they beat dropped, the shields got wiped, and it was just a really, really easy cleanup from then on. And you have to ask yourself, really, how much respect do you want to give the enemy team in this scenario? And I think that's like this very big like mental mind game that you need to really consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of aspect to like how much do you respect the enemy team. I think a huge part of that though too is also like, and I think ties into what both of us are saying, is how much you respect your own team. And it's
right.
Like, and that's the thing, we're following up on a beat with an EMP. Like that's the kind of play you can only do to that high a value if you know for a fact that your team's going to be in a position to immediately and quickly respond to that, because that's a split second kind of thing. And like, because that's the thing, for all the discussion we give about how much respect you give the enemy team, I think what matters more, especially, and again, like at these somewhat at the elos that Pretenders often operates at, how much respect you give your own team. And I think that ties into like one of the major themes of every interview we've had today and every discussion we've had today has been teams talking about their improvements or struggles and their comm settings or their comm structures.
Right.
And I think that's what we see is like teams learning to respect each other, teams learning to
I can definitely empathize with that statement. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. I feel like one of the biggest indicators of really going into higher elos is learning that this is a team game and it's not so much an individual play style. Like, oh, I'm carrying game. Like, I'm sure that it happens, that carrying does happen in those higher elos. Never having been there myself, so obviously I'm speaking with authority. No, I'm just kidding. But you definitely see a lot more team play and a lot more coordination of really subtle things like positioning, really subtle things like high ground, really subtle things like, oh, as soon as you might see someone making a break for your supports, like being there and being like, no, you're not going to do that. I'm going to be the one to in many ways care for my team in that way. I really like this example as well of team synergy. I totally interrupted you, by the way. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. Like all I was going to say is like it definitely ties into like the comm structures that we're talking about and doing that. And I think that's also a big part of why a lot of us are here to begin with. It's why someone would choose to play in a scrim and team environment instead of in ranked, because in ranked you can't afford to necessarily play with too much respect for your team, because you like, regardless of whether they're good or not, you don't know what their play style is. You don't know how they'll follow up on things. Like, so
that's
much
a good point.
so much of how I've learned to play characters, like so much of because I've been playing a lot of Lucio for Lightbringers right now, and so much of how I play Lucio is based around me understanding and me having an understanding of
how your tank line plays, or even how your Ana is positioned, and I totally get that.
And that's the thing where what it ends up doing, honestly, is a lot of the times it ends up ruining ranked, where it just makes it so that like you get used to that, having that respect.
Yeah. I can. So, idea, just 6 stack with your team in ranked, easy.
Yeah. There we
no,
go.
I'm just kidding.
Solution: six stack in ranked.
6 stack in ranked.
Give you less problems and not more.
It's gonna be great. This next clip is over by Solitude as Diva. So what happened is that Solitude told me that that him and David grinded a bunch of spots on just all the maps for Diva bombs, and this was one of his favorites. Let's take a look at what we're seeing right now. Looks like they immediately grab, and it kind of just comes out of nowhere for the enemy team, and he ends up getting 3, maybe 4 people in that. And he's like, yeah, we grinded this spot, like this specific spot, around 100 times. And I'm like, what? Like, huh? Can you imagine the amount of patience it takes to do that? That's ridiculous. Coming up on the highlights right here. This one's also from the Twitter. The caption says, you can try and dive action use his team's backline, but make sure OWPod doesn't see you coming. So it looks like they do have Transcendence. They do get that Nano out, and they immediately OWPod immediately does end up sleeping Wombo, and which allows Sascan to really clean up with that Ash Dynamite. Let's take a look again, because I didn't get to see that too much. So we come in with the Nano. We see the Dragon over on the left side, which gets caught in the grab, and he's able to clean up on Chesh really, really easily. Wow. And I think that's another example of this really insane Ana plays that we see from Pretenders, and how important Ana is just as a piece in every team right now. Like, people are like, oh my goodness, Diva's overpowered. I personally think Ana's just a tiny bit overtuned, but she's been undertuned for such a long time, and I just mainly think that people still might not know how to deal with her, or maybe they're protecting her a bit too much. I don't know.
And that's where Ana becomes like a really difficult to discuss and balance here when it comes to that, because like Ana, part of the reason Ana is really powerful in team settings like this is, again, because so much of what she does either requires setup or follow-up.
Right.
And so when you're playing in a ranked environment, you're seeing she still has lots of options in a lot of different situations and a lot of good carry potential, but then you start looking.
But it's also hard to punish her as well. It's also like that only happens when you're on point with positioning, when you're on point with coordination of your team, because it's so easy to boost you. It's so easy to just nano your Lucio, be like, great, like that could have been a team winning ult, and never mind, Boostios can be team winning ults. I'm gonna say that. Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. This next clip is actually
you definitely, and that's the thing though, is like it all of this is based off of setup and follow up, which are things that you see in scrim settings significantly more than you would see in ranked, and like and that's why I think it's really cool being in a league like this, even is because you finally see a lot of this, where I, as a gold player, wouldn't normally get opportunities to learn that kind of play and to like learn that kind of understanding, to
and like communication, of course.
Yeah, follow up with things that I do on Lucio, or follow up with things that I do on Ana.
Sure.
And so that's why you see all these really good support plays,
right?
And that's why I'm obviously, like, everyone's experience is different, but I was finding when I was primarily playing ranked ladder, I played a lot of DPS, and I was finding I enjoyed DPS the most. As soon as I switched to more organized setting here in Pretenders,
did you swap support?
I swapped to support to start because that's what my team was looking for. I swapped to DPS briefly, thinking that, oh yeah, I was DPS main in ranked for a while. Like, oh, this will be fun. That lasted about 2 weeks.
I don't mess with the DPS and pretenders, that's for sure.
Yeah, like
I did.
Support's where the fun is.
I did want to just interrupt you real quick to really show this clip over by Cypher. It's a really big anti-nade, just really continuing our discussion on if on is overtuned or not. We see this like we see this wonderful 4 to 5 man anti over on breakthrough, and it just ends up. It's really also a sign for people to be like, big nade, it's time to be aggressive, and it's time to really clean up on it, because you know for a fact that once you're naded, there's very little counterplay outside of Zarya Bubble. Or like outside of beat drop. Right? Because you can't use the Zen ult because you're already antied. Unfortunately, even though they don't have a Zen, but it's just sort of an example.
But yeah,
I really do like that play as well.
But yeah, you look at that and you look at that, but the thing that you'll see, though, that I think makes that really good is that, like, mad points to Cypher for landing, like...
These insane...
For landing, another money nade. But then, like, on top of that, like, part of the reason it worked out as well as it did is because, like, you did see, Coxbox and, Who was on off tank for that one? Was that?
I think it was Aeon.
Yeah, and then you see Aeon and Coxbox moving forward and
wait, no, it was Ross for Zarya. My mistake. It was Ross for Zarya.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
totally, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You see stuff like that, and it's definitely these massive.
It's these massive set plays that you always have to look out for, and it's really go big or go home at that point. But speaking of going home, I will say that we are reaching sort of the end-ish of our podcast. So, as always, if you liked what you heard, let us know. If you didn't like what you heard, hey, let us know. That feedback helps out a lot and really helps improve the podcast. If you want to get involved, feel free to DM me, Forebears, and or Big Star of this server, who is also me. I'm joined by Hornet. Now's your time for plugs and anything you got to promote or anything going on in your life. As I bring up the background music, tell the people what you got going on.
Definitely biggest thing that I always love to plug is you already know I've already told you about the second podcast I'm a part of right now that we've been going on for almost a year now. Lore Party. You can either see it loreparty.com, Twitter @lore_party. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And it's a really cool deep dive discussions into the lore of different video game series, including Overwatch. And it's a lot of just really interesting big brain discussions on that. This is the only major plug I have.
Cool. I don't have any plugs. If I had any plugs, I'd be plugging this own podcast. But if you're here, you're here. So hey, thanks for watching. And this is a Hornet and Forebear signing off.
See you guys.